Hello, welcome to ESCAP Digital and Sustainable Regional Integration Index. We call it DigiSRII. This is the first version of comprehensive indicator framework developed by ESCAP. Before going into how we construct DigiSRII, let me give you some background. ESCAP work to develop DigiSRII is part of the UN Development Account project, which ESCAP is implementing together with the other two UN regional commissions, which are ECA and ESCWA. The project aims to build measuring and monitoring mechanisms to improve performance of regional integration within the three regions. ESCAP work builds on existing work to develop a regional integration index, but ESCAP aims to better integrate the digital and sustainable development dimensions into regional integration policy. Rather than focusing on methodological issues to aggregate various indicators into one comprehensive index, ESCAP focused on developing a global indicator framework for digital and sustainable regional integration. This effort is inspired by the indicator framework established to monitor progress of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. We use three main principles to build DigiSRII. First, we try to respect regional and national diversity. We recognize that different economies and different regions may give different priorities to different areas of regional integrations. Second, we recognize that there is no optimal level of regional integration. The most regionally integrated economy may not bring the most desirable outcome. Just to give one example, the COVID-19 pandemic may have more negative impacts on the more regionally integrated economies. But at the same time, the economy that affected by the COVID-19 may be able to recover faster if they are more regionally integrated because they may have the better access to medical supplies. When we build the DigiSRII, we try to make the index approach as transparent as possible. We build DigiSRII based on simple aggregation techniques to form a basis for policy analysts and policymakers to develop their own versions using the underlying data we provide as they see fit. Now let's look into the structure of DigiSRII. DigiSRII is built based on the idea that we try to make it as comparable as the existing one, especially those built by ECA and ADB. Therefore, we include the same 6 dimensions which feature in ECA and ADB work. These are trade and investment, financial integration, regional value chain integration, infrastructure integration, movement of people, and regulatory cooperation. What is new in DigiSRII is we add another dimension on digital economy, which is the modern approach of regional integration in the 21st century. The other important contribution of DigiSRII is we embed the sustainable integration into each of the dimensions. In total, DigiSRII then composed of 7 conventional dimensions plus 7 sustainable dimensions. These 14 dimensions of DigiSRII make the index very comprehensive but very data intensive as well. Taking into account the issue of data availability, ESCAP decided to build DigiSRII into 2 versions. First version is the simple version, which is based on subsets of indicators in each dimension. There will be 42 indicators and cover 24 economies in Asia-Pacific regions where data are available in all dimensions. The coverage is larger if we look into performance at dimension level, because some economies have better coverage in certain dimensions than the other dimensions. For economies with very good statistics, there are 13 economies that can have options to evaluate their regional integration policies with comprehensive version of DigiSRII that composed of 53 indicators. Over the long term, we encourage member states to fill the data gaps in order to be able to utilize DigiSRII comprehensive version to evaluate their regional integration policy in the more comprehensive manner. Here we present the overall regional integration performance based on the two versions of DigiSRII. The results based on comprehensive version is shown in pink bar, and the result based on simplified version is illustrated in blue bars. As you can see from the figures, both versions of DigiSRII give broadly consistent results. There always be Singapore, Japan, Republic of Korea as the top 3 performers in both comprehensive and simplified measurements of regional integrations. The coverage of the comprehensive version is 13, when the coverage of the simplified version is 24 economies. If we go into individual indicators and sub-index level, you would see more country cover because some countries have better data availability in certain areas. Those economies will not manage to be present in the overall regional integration, but they will show their performance at indicators and sub-dimension levels. This slide gives you more details about how the region performs across dimensions. You may notice that the slide uses different shades and different height of the bar representing the level of integrations and the progress of integration over time. The darker of the shade of bar means the better integrate the region currently made in those areas, and the height represent how much progress they made over time in that respective dimensions compared to other dimensions. On average, as represented by the shade of the bar, regional financial integration tend to be the most advanced area, followed by better connectivity through infrastructures and through arrangements enhancing regulatory cooperation. Example of these arrangements are such as having FTAs with regional partners. In terms of progress, because of investment in mega infrastructure projects and proactive FTA strategies of economies in the region during the recent period, infrastructure integration, digital economy integrations, and regulatory cooperation are found to be the most dynamic factors driving the progress of regional integration in this region. On the opposite, people movement is the most restricted area of economic integration in Asia Pacific, and this area rarely made a progress over time. From the perspective of sustainable development of regional integration, again, we found that financial and infrastructure dimensions stand out. The region seems to be able to manage its financial integration quite prudently. This makes that financial markets are not too volatile despite the rapid flow of capital across borders into domestic financial markets. The region also has relatively better inclusivity of access to infrastructure, including digital economy infrastructure during the study period, which is from 2010 to 2017. In terms of change over time, improvement in inclusive access to infrastructure and inclusive access to digital trade has made the most progress over the study period. It should be noted also that in trade and investment integration as well as in regional value chain integrations, it seems that the region did not significantly deepen the level of integration from 2010 to 2017. This result could be explained by many factors, but one of the factors could be that many major economies in the region has reached the maturity of integration in those respective dimensions before the start of the analysis, which is the year in 2010. Now, we are going to explain a bit further on a major contribution of DigiSRII. Sustainable development is mainstreamed into the index by adding sustainable development focused indicators to conventional indicators in each of the 7 dimensions. The sustainable development focused indicators emphasize how regional integration along each dimension is pursued, taking into account, in particular, the need for inclusivity and environmental protection. To better understand on what do I mean by sustainable development focus indicator, let's look into the concept of indicators in this table. This table gives a brief overview of indicators under conventional and sustainable regional integration in each dimension. In general, indicators under sustainable regional integration are trying to be as much as possible a parallel measurement of the conventional indicators. For example, when a conventional trade and investment indicator measuring regional trade and investment flows and their barriers, the sustainable trade and investment indicators will focus on regional trade and investment in environmental goods, and also looking into domestic value added and jobs created by regional trade overall. With regard to financial integrations, conventional indicators would be about regional capital flow that generate synchronization of financial markets. Sustainable financial integration then consider that the increased capital flow should not generate excessive volatility because the macroeconomic volatility will hinder long-term economic growth. Sustainable regional value chains integration focused on value chains in environmental goods, CO2 leakages of the value chains, and employment generated by participating in regional value chains. Movement of people look at regional flows of people and remittance, but sustainable movement of people is trying to capture whether those regional migrants have a better level of per capita income. Various indicators are captured under regulatory cooperation. One example is the number of FTAs with regional partners. A parallel sustainable indicator of this variable is then the number of development-related provisions in those FTAs. For digital economy integration, the dimension is covered by indicators reflecting how ready and how open to digital trade. Sustainable digital integration then take into account inclusivity of those access. Various indicators are captured under the regulatory corporations. One example of the indicators in this dimension is the number of FTA with regional partners. A parallel measurement of this indicator for sustainable development perspective is then looking into the number of sustainable development related provision in those FTA. For digital economy integration, the dimension is covered by indicators reflecting how readiness and how openness is the region has to digital trade with regional partners. Sustainable digital integration is then look into inclusivity of those access. Coming to another area which makes the ESCAP framework of indicators unique from the existing ones is the digital economy integrations. ESCAP addressed digital economy integration as involving the freer flow of digital goods and services across regional partners. It also covers the increase of regional digital trade as well as uh, cover the regulation that facilitate the digital trade. Therefore, indicators of deepening digital economy integration are considered to involve increasing regional intensity of ICT goods trade flows, increasing access to and use of online purchase in the region, lowering barriers and streamlining digital trade policy with regional partners, which cause increasing level of network openness and achieving greater regulatory similarity with regional partners. Most of these indicators may be well known if researchers are working in the area of digital trade or digital economy research, but the indicators on regional regulatory similarity is new because we develop it based on the unique data sets. So the next slide will explain a little bit further into regulatory similarity with the details of uh, underlying data will be discussed more fully in session 7 and session 8. This slide gives a closer look into regional regulatory similarity in digital trade policy. ESCAP approach recognizes that in addition to accessibility and affordability of required infrastructure, digital economy integration also requires policy streamlining to build conducive ecosystem for enhancing digital trade with regional partners. Deepening digital trade policy integration is then considered to involve the lowering of barriers to digital trade, increasing levels of network openness, and achieving greater regulatory similarity with regional partners. This subdimension, capturing regulatory similarity between the country under consideration and its regional partners at a bilateral level in 11 areas of policy that are considered to be relevant for digital trade integration. These 11 areas include trade and tariff defense on ICT-related products, public procurement, foreign direct investment, intellectual property rights, telecom infrastructures and competition, cross-border data policies, domestic data policies, intermediary liability and content access, quantitative trade restrictions, standards, online sales and transactions. We will get into details of how we measure restrictiveness of regional digital trade integration in these 11 areas in session 7 and 8. Before you will see the discussions of digital trade regulatory restrictiveness of Asia-Pacific countries in more detail. Under session 7 and session 8, I will give you a glimpse of overall result. This slide illustrates the overall regional regulatory similarity in 2017 ranked across 13 Asia-Pacific economies where data are available. The results are based on measuring and comparing digital trade restrictions as of 2017 across these 13 economies. The index showed that advanced economies led by New Zealand, Singapore, and Japan tend to be the most regionally integrated in terms of digital trade policy because of they have relatively open environment and harmonized regulatory framework with major regional partners in the area related to digital trade. On the other end of the spectrum, we have important developing economies, in particular China, India, and Vietnam, tend to be relatively restricted in terms of digital trade policy ecosystem. Now it is coming to my two last slides. I would like to conclude that regional integration is a multi-dimensional endeavor, and it is important to ensure that regional integration takes place in a way that is consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals. The rapid growth of digital economy today also adds new challenges to the regional integration process. Therefore, DigiSRII try to provide and improve tools for policymakers and researchers to evaluate the performance of economies while also facilitating cross-economy comparisons. However, lack of data remains a serious impediment. Even the simple version of DigiSRII, which is based on 42 instead of 53 indicators, still cover only 24 economies, which is slightly less than half of ESCAP members. Looking ahead, all countries should take steps to collect and make more data available to form the basis for sound evidence-based policy making and benchmarking. This is particularly urgent when it comes to digital and sustainable regional integration indicators. In addition, efforts may focus increasingly on developing a global regional indicator framework and building the capacity of economies to tap into the framework to easily generate composite regional integration index that better meet their needs and objectives. And last but not the least, new and alternative data sources should be continuously explored to support the further development of DigiSRII and this regional integration indicator framework.